Good evening. Here it is, the 14th day of the third month of the 2024 on the Gregorian calendar. And I just want to share with you the Federal Reserve Circular number 10. And this is in relationship to the alleged healthcare guardianship wardship status of Wendy Williams. And what I'm doing is just bringing some information to the forefront that would help to shift people's knowledge and understanding about what's going on and hopefully raise awareness with the point of making change for the better. How is it that someone on her own land could be kept away from her kin who clearly love and care for her? How is it that this could happen? Well, there's several drivers. One of them, I think that people are not aware of the injustice and the inequity involved in it. I think that some of the people who actually made it happen might be under pressure and an expectation that many of us cannot see, do not see. It was some executives from Wells Fargo who made the phone call for the petition in the first place. I watched a recent hearing that was directed toward the bankers, and they were talking about their response to when the Department of Defense or one of the Department of Homeland Security agencies call them and ask them to put a hold on a customer's account or something like that, right? See, so these bankers, some of them have different standards than others about how they respond to it. But with these things that have to do with people's safety, their livelihood, their God-given rights, all of them, if they were given the right information, they would have the same answer. It's called compliance. It's called the Constitution to which they are held to. Now, just know that the Constitution does not protect Wendy. But, the first line of defense for the people is really by the people. And part of this is the people actually knowing what's going on. So let's see here. So what I found listening to different people's stories about what's going on right now, a lot of people who are indigenous to this land, right, being mislabeled the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, um, looking to be a national or state citizen. It's a lot of people who are sharing how they're being targeted, by the system. It looks different for different people. I can share that I started to study this information when about $14,000 in, some people would say money, but it would be better to say $14,000 worth of credits were shifted out of an account that I was responsible for without my permission. And there were several things that contributed to that. The monies were the funds, I'll say the funds, they were never put back. And I had to study, to research and understand why and how that could happen. And so that is one thing that happened. Another thing is that one of the local professional licensing boards charged my straw. I have a commercial individual that I was working under, right? Or under might be a good word, right? Subjected to. I was charged with something that was frivolous and it was never substantiated. And I realized that there is something people who know law, they call it SMU, which is, I'll say, sugar made up, right? And I get it because it literally was that. And there was never a presentation to justify why I was being accused of doing something, in there were charges brought against my estate. Okay. And so I began to study, and I actually even said, hey, I'll give you money. I'll give you, I can discharge and offset. I accept these charges and go, but I do not accept that it's something about me that was said that I did not do. You full well know I didn't do it. I was accused of practicing in a profession without the license that they said I needed, but I didn't. And had they presented some evidence that I did, I would have accepted that gladly. But and I would have learned from it to not do it again. But it was the case that that position did not require a license, especially during the time of COVID, and uh, there was a there was actually a moratorium on having to renew within the time period. There was what else was going on? That was from the governor of that state, said you don't have to renew. And also, if you have another license in another jurisdiction, even if that wasn't the moratorium, or not, I should say the grace period, all right. If you have a license in a different state, it was a national standard that it should be accepted in the neighboring state for the time, since all the qualifications were the same. And then I just studied, and I saw how these people in the role of public servants were actually colluding together to escheat people from their rights as a pattern. I saw how even HIPAA guidelines were put aside in order to dig into their medical record to get information against the licensee so that they could find them. So now I'm offering you your $2,500. I just need you to take it off the record that I did something I didn't do. Well, of course, you don't want to take that off the record, because then it will be even more evident to the world that you are escheating people out of their states. It's called a RICO violation. And so I did take out do a writ quo warranto and a default judgment, and I have not put the lien and the levy on them, on the agency, on the people who are through their persons, right, doing this. I probably will do an adjustment to that, because I was learning as I went, and I didn't even fully understand everything I did. However, I do not come, I do not release them from that judgment, because it's definitely a violation. And I found out, really who I am. I found out that I do have an estate. I found out I have an ancestral estate. I found out that people are calling me a 14th Amendment citizen, and that that makes me a corporate citizen under a bondage system, and that the estate that I am heir to is also the same estate that the world's economy is built around, you know? So, like Cat Williams said, we don't know who we are, but those who oppress us know exactly who we are. This economy cannot be what it is without escheating the heirs of their estate. Now, of course, they don't think it's cheating us, because they say we're asleep. We're not aware of what's going on. And it is the case that once we awaken, that the estate is to go back to us. So there are some people who I say they've awakened, but I guess maybe not fully. And what kind of stands out to me now is that here at the United States of America, Major, the land, Morocco, like when I really study the law, I realized that there's no real home, no home nation under which the flag would be appropriate for me to say, yes, this is my people all the way. And I'll tell you why I say that in just a second. Excuse me. So I know that there are people who um, have a desire for us to wake up. The thing about it, in the law, there's no protection for the original indigenous people when it comes to the United States corporation. It's a corporation. And even when you look at the Constitution, you'll see the 3/5 person, and you'll see the barbarian, the barbarian Indian. They were referring to the copper colored people who were already here, and even a lot of the treaties were signed with people who were not. Um, they were half breeds. That's how they were referred to in the papers, as half breeds, and some of the treaties were objected to by some of the elders, right? So the foundation upon which um, this economy is built is on sand, and that many know that the time is up. And so we're awakening. And now let's address the other flag, which is um, the flag is referred to as that of the Moroccan Empire, but also the Moroccan Kingdom. And what's important to know about this is it's on the record that all quote unquote Moorish Americans, that they're held in trust as nationals, right? And it was a sultan that signed the treaty, which was treaty is the law of the land. So the fact that in civics we don't know about treaties and the underlying way the economy works is a detriment to us. And it says by lack of knowledge that people perish. I think that's Hosea 4:6, if I'm not mistaken. And then also another text that stands out to me is Nehemiah 10:29. It talks about people making oaths to nobles and making accepting the law of Moses and then being subjected to curses that go along with it, right? So it's some situations that we're in, and we have feelings and beliefs about stuff that don't line up with what is true. But this is an era of truth. And someone who knows the truth and does not speak the truth is held under judgment. And I do not want to be held under a judgment to withhold information that could help set people free. And I want to be set free. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, I'm free, I'm good, and I'm just trying to reach back and help you out." No, I'm searching for my freedom too, and I'm standing on what is right. I'm standing on what is true, and expecting a blessed, not the word blessed, a beautiful outcome from this. Okay. So in my trials, I've studied, and some things important to read, it would be the Bill of Rights, would be Declaration of Rights on Indigenous People by the United Nations, also the Organization of American States Declaration on Rights. It's important to go to the Vatican website to know that March 30th of 2023, the Pope did give an announcement of the repudiation of the doctrine of discovery. That was one of the foundational doctrines. The word doctrine talks about like a boat being docked, right? It's a doctrine is a statement, a proclamation, a teaching, and a conditioning that is put upon people to bring them into commerce and to take advantage of their energy, right? Because our bodies are treated as vessels in the sea of commerce. Now, once you learn how to walk on water, like the Christ did, then you have enterprises, you have trusts, you have businesses, right? And this is what I'm learning, and how I do not want to be treated as a vessel at sea for someone else's benefit. All right. So the Federal Reserve circulars, these must be read and understood to know how to liberate ourselves, how to redeem ourselves. Uniform Commercial Code. There is such thing as a global world trust, and there have been proclamations that have been made about you. You can check out the post that I made on the 13th of March. It's called "The Adverse Claims to Reversionary Interest of My Ancestral Estate," and this is a process. I mean, like today, I went to acquire um, a conveyance, another way of saying car, but I know car is short for something else, or it's an acronym for something. So um, the proper way to acquire something is not by committing to spending Federal Reserve notes. That's just not it. Excuse me for one moment. Okay, so to do that properly, you want to know the Uniform Commercial Code, and that's uniform amongst all the 50 corporate states and the District of Columbia, and it is also connected to the Vatican. And I could say maybe check out James Lovett's channel. He talks about that, and Unidroid and that sort of thing. So, the Pope wants their money back. So their private papers, right? And African Americans, quote unquote, Blacks, whatever have you, haven't done the proper processes. If you have not, then you are considered stock. Okay, you are considered stock if you don't correct the record. So we have to correct the record because we are living, breathing people. We're living, breathing people, and we are heirs to the world's largest estate. And this is not how I feel. This is what is true. And so if we continue to accept doctrines that make us uninheritable, if we were to do such a thing, then we would be putting ourselves at risk, because there are others who profit from us staying asleep. Now, if and and the other piece is that we miss the opportunity to help others who cannot help themselves. There's no part of Wendy Williams being detained in front of the whole world and in such a ritual that it's okay to just stand by and let that happen. I say there's several drivers as to why no one has helped release her from this situation. One is some people don't know how unethical it is, how unethical it is for her to not be getting top of the line care. And why do I think she's not getting top of the line care? Well, they didn't say that she was getting it. Yeah. In a treatment facility without these natural treatments, without red light saunas, without these type of things like that. If she's not getting that, then she's not getting top of the line care, because that's what it is, and she has enough money to do it. And so they didn't share that. And then they're talking about these conditions as if there's no improvement. There's definitely, these are not conditions that are automatically just degenerative. In fact, aphasia is just the name of the condition. It's not the cause. Aphasia is the name of the condition when you have a loss of words and several and things like that. Okay, so aphasia is not the cause of why you can't speak or have dysfunction in your communication in that way. Aphasia is the name of the condition when that happens. The cause of the condition could be many things, and I understand that there was abuse of or misuse of alcohol. Okay, well, why is that? All right, the lady was traumatized in several ways, and that's a whole nother thing. And that's why it's just important to talk about the role of the targeting that is paid for by the Department of Defense, that is sponsored by them. And also the Department of Defense or the Department of Homeland Security, one of their main goals is to secure the corporation against the heirs. See? So there's going to be monies toward making sure that the families stay unstable, making sure that that people are in a position where they can take control of the estate if necessary, as has been done with her case, right? Because why else would it be that her son is taking care of her in a beautiful way and then she gets called back to New York? She can't stay in warm Miami. Oh, Miami is wonderful. Miami is beautiful. And she was doing fine. But guess what? When she's in Miami, there's a chance of her getting better and waking up and claiming her estate. Well, the banks are falling, and the bankers are not trained to handle this. How we are right now, how the economy is right now, is not not a position we've ever been in. Every bank, the Federal Reserve, um, the British Crown, the Pope, all of them need to have a project manager, a scrum master, agile project manager. The Senate needs this. The Congress needs this. They need someone who is trained in strategic management. Nothing about what they're trained to do makes them responsible to know this information. It's not. You could probably be an excellent banker and have no idea on what is needed in order to right what the world is going through now with the economy. And so then you have powerful people who really just don't know what to do. And it's okay to not know what to do. But probably what's happening too is they're fearful. Some are fearful or about what is going to happen next. Or maybe some are arrogantly thinking, oh, we'll just off half the world and we'll be fine. Or we go to another planet. I'm not sure exactly everything, but if you watch what's happening, they tell you a lot about extraterrestrials and things like that. But a lot of people are not paying attention. All right, so I think it's normal and natural to want to live. I want to live, and I want to live well. And I also want to give assurance to those who are bankers that we see you crying for help. Um, if well, if people watch the news, if they watch the congressional hearings, they see the cries for help. So it is my recommendation that there be scrum masters, right? First of all, I will learn and figure out what needs to happen to summons people from this state of the dead where the oaths to dead religions come before just righting the ship. Yeah, right. So if all this good customer service, all that kind of thing that was given to me in order to lure me into the dead pledge of a mortgage, We could talk then. But now we're talking about following the Federal Reserve circulars in order to discharge and offset the debt. And now you can't talk to me. You want to run a ritual on me? When already the women here are being attacked with their health, right? This can be seen on the Targeted Justice website. I'm not making up anything. It clearly tells you the strategies to destroy the heirs. What is going on? So I'm going to read as much as, let's see, try not to go over an hour, but Federal Reserve Circular number 10. Hopefully you will go to just type in Federal Reserve Circulars. This is part of us coming out of Babylon, our state of infancy, our state of being treated like babies who are fathered by the Pope, who has declared us dead at sea. You did hear that, right? You did hear that correctly. It's what's being assumed by you. So Federal Reserve Circular number 10, I think it'll give some insight as to how people are held as collateral by way of making them persons, and then they're held as collateral. So Federal Reserve Operating Circular number 10. And it's important to know all of them. This is something that most people did not get in civics. It's something that the wealthy know. This is why the wealthy do not feel guilty when they have, but then other people don't have, because everything that they have, you could probably have if you had knowledge and if you look for the knowledge on the free internet. But so many people are conditioned to value things other than what is true, because most of us do like appreciate having assets. An asset would be your house, or home, or even a contract is an asset. A contract is an asset. Now, some things that you consider to be assets are also like property. And your essence is even considered property, and you don't know that. It's considered personal property. That's why we need to know about operating circulars, especially if you are using a Social Security number. It's not yours. Look on your, if you have a Social Security card, mine was taken from me, which is fine, because I'm learning how to operate without it. I think that was the point. As someone who was targeted, yes, my space is not my own space, and I'm working to correct that. So the definitions are at the top. You could probably read through them twice, through the reserve circulars twice. I mean, they're very well written, but I will say that I think it is the control of the Department of Homeland Security and also the Department of Treasury that may be the case why the bankers are not compliant with their own Federal Reserve circular. They're not being compliant based on what I heard at the hearing. And compliance is important. And so that means we have a model here at the United States of America, upon which the United States corporation exists. There is a model where if it was followed properly, everything would be wonderful. So, you know, this panic, this frozen state of just doing what you had been doing because you had been doing it, you know, I don't know if it's at the threat of your life, or I don't know. It's possible, as someone who has been targeted heavily. I understand. I get it. But like we understood in The Wizard of Oz, lion, lion, get some courage, because truth and righteousness at your being the sail to your wind will take you so far. I challenge you to be your best self right now. And so you don't have to go back or feel ashamed or feel anything about this time. This time is either going to make you a better man or woman, or it's going to show all the ugliness inside. So um, I encourage everyone to just be their best. Federal Reserve Circular number 10. Okay, first this is the lending part. So a lot of the public banks that we go into for our public banking using the Federal Reserve, the floating rate note, FRN. Some people call it fiat. Well, the reason I don't like to call it fiat, well, because that's not what it is. It's called a floating rate note, a floating rate note. And then I think we can develop a better appreciation for what is happening in the world and how to fix it. A floating rate note, the rate goes up and down. It's dependent on the interest rate. There's certain things that contribute to the rate going up and down. It's not just somebody making a declaration. It also has to do with the behavior of people in commerce, whether you have a company or a business or what have you, and it has to do with your activity if you're using the Social Security number, because the Social Security number is tied to the Federal Reserve. All right, it's the one assigned to your account. There are different ways that you can operate in commerce where there are not claims put on you. But if you're going to operate under the Social Security number and be collateral for the debt that you accumulate, well, you might end up, well, let me just read these facts here so we can get knowledge and we can make a decision about what we want to do. And just right here, this one is about lending. Okay, so let's look at this lending thing. Part 1, the scope. Part 2, 2.0, defined terms. 3.0, advances. 4.0, interest. 5.0, repayment of advance. 6.0, grant of security interest. So remember I talked about the floating rate note. The interest rate is floating interest. 7.0, collateral. Our estates, our essence is being held as collateral. 8.0, maintenance of lending documents. 9.0, representation and warranties. 10.0, covenants, like a contract. I was always taught it's like a contract that can't be broken. So like a rainbow would be a covenant. So in commerce, you call something a covenant, I rebut that. I can't get out of that because contracts are meant to be broken. I guess they call it a covenant and they letting you know. See, there's a lot of spiritual stuff going on here. And it's important to know everyone's religion, right? And so even as we look at what Wendy Williams is going through, you're trying to tell me there's not some type of religious ritual going on? Everyone that she sits, that her estate goes in front of. First of all, she's declared a ward. She's declared dead in law. But she looked like she was living, breathing, talking to me. So is she dead or is she alive? Religious rituals. The magistrate wears a black robe. You don't really see that often. People just walking down the streets in black robes, men wearing black robes. See, this is a religious activity going on. There is a ritual and root and a conjure, and it's not her like by accident. Let me just show this. Effective July 16, the Federal Reserve Bank's operating circular number 10, effective July 16th, 2013. Now, you'll notice when you read these circulars too that certain numbers, usually certain numbers, they correspond to certain little nuances. Like 8 might refer to something that they want to happen over and over and over. There's actually the Federal Reserve circular, one of them, one number they didn't even have. I can't remember which one it was. They just skipped it because it represented something that was repugnant to their goal of having interest in your life, in your estate. Okay, July 16th. Wendy's birthday is either July 16th or July 18th. I'm not sure which one it is. I have to look to see, but it's pretty close there. And that's no coincidence. When you start noticing people in high positions, you'll start noticing patterns in their birthdays. Okay, so they indoctrinate people to not know what's happening in the heavens and the stars. However, the religious rituals that are performed on you are done full well with the knowledge of your chart, of the information they collected on you at birth. .0 waiver of immunity, submission to jurisdiction. Submission to jurisdiction. That happens to be on page 13. Most banks don't have a 13th floor because the first matter of law is status. And if you are a thing of the corporation, it's going to be a different set of rules that apply to your estate than if you are an heir to the world's largest estate. Okay. 12.0 remedies upon default. Remedies upon default. 13 indemnification, has to do with insurance. 14 miscellaneous. 15.0 amendment. 16.0 notice. 17.0 termination. And then 18.0 governing law, and 19.0 waiver of jury trial. 20.0 status of previous lending agreement. So as people are waking up about the economy and the dishonor of the long dead pledges, also known as mortgages, if you look up the etymology of mortgage, and people are learning, it's having an impact on the banking system as we've known it. And there are those around the world who are not buying the bonds and who are not participating in some of the economic transactions that they had been participating in at the U.S. So now bankers are being they're in a situation they've never been in, right? So instead of following the Federal Reserve circular, they're responding to the demands from the Department of Homeland Security and whatever have you. And mind you, these agencies, one of their goal is to subjugate the people, put them under a judgment. If you ever don't know a word, what it means when I say it, please look up etymology, E-T-Y, Mology. Etymology of the word. That's the root meaning, because dictionary words, sometimes the meanings are the definitions change in dictionaries. But the root of the word is the root of the word. So don't get insulted or think I'm trying to talk over your head or anything. It's just we're growing up out of Babylon. Okay. Then you have appendices. Um, Appendix number 4, application package for borrowers or agencies of non-U.S. borrowers. So just tying a little bit of what I've been saying is I'm understanding that I am not a U.S. person, and I actually nationalized. I made a declaration of nationality, which it is my right to do in the law and legally and lawfully. And so actually my person became a non-US natural person. It became a Moroccan natural person, right? But you could take the forms to the bank. Now, if they were acting in accordance to the circulars, they would have a process upon which they would inform the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. They would discharge and offset your debt. And then they would ask you, hey, do you want to work on private banking? They would have a little brochure right there so you could start banking privately with their institution, and they could even get fees and like be sustainable. The only thing that they wouldn't be able to do anymore is keep you in bondage. That's the only thing. And of course they wouldn't get as much of fiat. They would not be able to escheat your estate anymore, but they wouldn't be closing. So just an observation. A form of official authorization list. OC is Operating Circular 10 authorization list. Okay. So they have a form of opinion of foreign outside counsel, a form of opinion of United States outside counsel. Form of agreement for third party custodian to hold collateral. Because right now, the Federal Reserve holds your estate, and you, not just your things, you being held as collateral for the debt. That's why Wendy is not getting top of the line care. Yes, she's being held as collateral. Form of correspondent credit and payment agreement, letter of agreement to correspondent credit and payment agreement. Appendix 6, prohibition against federal assistance to any swaps entity. I'm not going to pretend like I know what that means, but let's just read here. I'll just probably read another 30 minutes and I'll come back to it and read some more tomorrow because it's important. So it's important that we understand this, because this is not, like I said, it's not how I feel or what I believe. I would like someone to prove to me that the Social Security number is not the mark of the beast. Who is the beast? I would say it's not just the Roman Curia who wants their funds back. It's not just the Roman Curia who has declared you dead at sea. No, it's also the bankers and the crown, because they work together. The corporate judicial system, where justice is blind, right? They don't look at what's true. That's what the blindfold is, because they don't see really what's going on. They play court like a tennis match, but the truth is not it. It may be legal facts, but they don't have to be true. I can share that with you too. But that kind of goes back to um, me being accused of doing something I didn't do. They could not hear me in their fictitious system because I'm a living woman, and a living woman cannot be heard in their fictitious system. So when I realized, wait a minute, I've done all I could do to make sure I don't have to come before these people and answer to anybody. You do what you're supposed to do, you don't have to answer. No. Well, I guess I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I guess it's actually just dishonorable that I would even apply for for a license to do something that in the real world, outside of their fictitious system, I can help people without a license. So that's what I'm called to do. And until the system is comes into honor, so to a degree, the system, you can't get a live thing from a dead thing, right? So it's going to be oversight and shifting and revenuing people's energy. That's really what it is. It's a revenuing of people's energy, because um, the religious practice is the religious practice. And some people have more integrity than others. So, like I said, it doesn't seem so unfair. They'll like allow for due process, but others, they do not. And they just, I think they're just scared. And, the opposite of love is fear. And then from the fear comes hate. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. And from the fear comes the hate. The fear could be of various things. It could be fear of the not having your basic needs met. It could be fear of your image being tarnished. It could be fear of losing your life. It could be fear of any number of things. Sometimes the reason for the fear is real, and sometimes it's just perceived. And so it's important to have conversations and to look at all your options, because just because the pendulum is swinging in a different direction to be to the benefit of the people's estate, it doesn't, things don't have to crash. It's a lack of imagination. It's a lack of that gray thinking, because see, a lot of people think black and white only, and that's not how life is. That's how the game of chess is played, but that's not life. I mean, just give an example. A man meets a woman and he's, oh, I'm attracted to her. You don't just put the rules of chess in play. And for the people who do that thing, that might be why they don't have the rich relationships that is available to them, because they apply the rules of chess to more nuanced and situation. Okay, boom. Let's see. The scope, credit and security terms. So what's happening is the banks have a security interest in your estate. Okay, boom. And this is even just even if you don't have a mortgage or a loan or anything like that. If you've opened up a bank account in a public bank with your social security number, they have a security interest in your estate. And more companies have this. If you've applied for something, applied for a job, applied for a license, they have a security interest in your state, and you gave it to them and you didn't know it, and you're contracting as in the state of infancy. So all contracts done in fraud remain in fraud. And this is another thing maybe that bankers are afraid of, or not even just the bankers, the people who are controlling the bankers, what they're afraid of. I went to a credit union the other day. Can you believe? Because I'm trying to close that account in the public banking because I don't want to bank publicly because I'm not a thing of the state. Okay. So with that said, they don't accept letters of credit. Why wouldn't you accept a letter of credit um, done right? Now, I get it, I'm still learning. But let's say I knew how to do it perfect. The credit union said, no, we don't take them. That's against banking law. See, so these are problems that they're bringing upon themselves. There are people who specialize in compliance to policies that could help the bankers come into compliance. I don't know if they want to or not. Maybe they're being controlled by people who don't want them to. That's my suspicion. Because there are people who want to off the population. You see it in the movies. And just because it's put in a movie doesn't mean people agree to it. It's kind of like we gave a warning. No, we don't agree. Most people want to live. They don't want to be genocided. And just because it's not in a movie, just because it's in a movie and people didn't revolt doesn't mean that they are down for it. Most people don't even understand what's going on. So I speak from the land of the living. I want to live. I will to live. Okay. I don't accept any of that religious, self-fulfilling prophecy. So I see how the different scriptures have written the end in a way where you will be in fear that if you don't maintain the bondage of someone else, then you're going to be put in the same bondage. That is religious doctrine just to scare you and control you. We are bigger than that in this age of awakening. All right, so this operating circular is used by each reserve bank and sets forth the terms under which any entity may, in accordance with the Federal Reserve Act and regulations promulgate thereunder by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, obtain advances from, incur obligations to, or pledge collateral to the Federal Reserve Bank. Again, this operating circular is issued by each reserve bank and sets forth the terms under which an entity may, listen to what I say, obtain advances from, or incur obligations to, or pledge collateral to a Federal Reserve Bank. So each public bank is connected to the Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S. Okay. Defined terms. 2.1. The capitalized terms used hereafter in this operating circular have the meanings defined below. Account means a master account at the Federal Reserve Bank, as defined in operating circular number 1, issued by the Reserve Bank. So you'll want to go back, but let's just say Wells Fargo, they're going to have a master account with the Federal Reserve. Okay. And then the different branches come under that master account. The account means a master account at the Reserve Bank. Okay. Second word, advance. Advance means an extension of credits to the borrower, not to include a discount of paper. Issue pursuant to Regulation A regarding the renewal of extension thereof. Yes, there's something, if you go to Treasury Direct, that's another good website because there is people who know how to manage money with wealth, they'll use the Treasury Direct for funds. And if you request money at 0%, request the floating rate note at 0%, you use it in circulation, you get a reward for that. You get a little bit of interest back to you for issuing the funds at a discounted rate, the floating rate note at a discounted rate. So see, it's a currency here that's created. And so we want to learn how this currency works. I don't think all interest is wicked. I do think that taking interest from a person's like essence is wicked, which is a little bit different maybe from using the time value of money. So let's just say on Monday, I bought a money order and it's backed by gold. And then on Wednesday or Thursday, right, I I give it to someone, they cash that money order and they get the same amount that I requested the money order be. Now, funds were made by the institution because I probably paid a fee for the money order. Okay. And the other thing is that the time value of money, there was interest that that company made when they held the funds until it was cashed. All right. A money order for 50 cents, something like that. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. I do have a problem. Let's say I bought the money order on Monday and the money order was purchased from the post office and the funds were on the gold, it's gold backed substance, right? And then you tell me I got to wait 3 days to cash a USA Resources money order. I got to wait 3 days to cash the money order. That's a problem that I went to 2 post offices and I checked on that. And I went to confirm. I tried to cash the money order. They said, we cannot cash the money order. You have to wait 3 days. So what if I had a money order dated for, let's say, Monday, the first of the month, and then I passed it along to someone else and that person wanted to cash it later on that day? You're trying to tell me that they can't cash the money order the same day and it's backed by gold? I don't think that's legal. I don't think it's lawful. I think that's a misuse of resources. Advance repayment amount means the amount of an advance plus all the accrued and unpaid interests thereon. An adverse claim has the meaning set forth in section 9.1D. I'm so curious as to what that is that I'm going to go to that now because I've made an adverse claim against an account that I'm responsible for. Okay. Has the meaning set forth in section 9.1D. Let's go down here to 9.1. The borrower has the rights and collateral sufficient to grant an enforceable security interest to the bank, and its rights and collateral are free of any assertion of property right that would adversely affect a reserve bank's right to collateral, including but not limited to any claim, lien, security interest, encumbrance, preference, or priority arrangement or restriction on the transfer or pledge of collateral. And then it says an adverse claim, in air quotes, except as created by or otherwise permitted under the lending agreement or by the bank. So I'll have to read that more to fully the correlation between collateral and adverse claim. The pledge of collateral. The borrower would be, I guess, someone applying for a loan or what have you. Has the rights and collateral sufficient to grant an enforceable security interest to the bank. Yes, so borrowers have rights. Many times we're not aware of the rights we have. We've actually voluntarily given away the security interest in our estates when we apply for certain loans, because you're just paying you're paying them back. You're paying the servicer back or the bank back, and you have abandoned the security interest in your own estate. That's what's happening. That's why it's said, and it is 100% true, that all mortgages are fraud, because even most people, they're not in a state of competency to know what's going on. So that's one way they're fraud. And if you read, you'll find out that after 3 years, you definitely, I've even read, I don't know if the law changed, but it was one document that I read that after 1 year, that mortgages are not enforceable. But I can definitely say from more than one source, it's after 3. And so with the banking system falling, that's why some people are having the anomalies in their account. That's why, it's just a difficult time. It doesn't have to be difficult. We can just do what's written and not get nervous and not be afraid, not get anxious or depressed. Just stay in the truth. Okay. Now, application package. That term means the application package substantially in the form of Appendix 3 or 4 as appropriate, which the borrower submitted in connection with its agreement to this operating circular. Okay. See, so anyone who ever applies for anything, as far as a loan or car note or anything, we really need to know what you're contracting. This is part of this, what I call is adulting, the adulting and awakening to adulting, coming out of baby life. Okay. All right. Banks mean the Federal Reserve Bank, whose district the borrower is located, or other reserve bank with such the borrower has entered into a borrowing relationship under this operating circular. So the bank. So I happen to know that New York, the Empire State, is the main Federal Reserve Bank. So like, let's say someone wants to nationalize, someone wakes up, says, hey, I have rights in commerce and I'm not supposed to be giving, it's called a dedonis. I'm not supposed to be gifting you from my estate. I prefer to come out of this bondage relationship. What is to happen based on what I've read is that the bank, let's say the bank is supposed to inform the New York Federal Reserve Bank. That's a particular district. I think there are 12 districts, right? Anyway, you're supposed to inform them, and then they are supposed to discharge and offset the debt I mean, if I didn't read, I'm not making it up. That's what I read. So all this, no, you got to do it this way. You got to file this and got to file that. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to figure it out. But at the same time, I read what it said. All this other stuff, I think, is people's ego and people's fear. Well, we got to make sure that they really know what they're doing. We got to make it's a lot to know because a lot of it is not, a lot of it is fraud. So it's a lot to know. Banks mean the Federal Reserve Bank whose district the borrower is located, such other reserve bank in which the borrower has entered into a borrowing relationship under this operating circular. Okay. Board of Governors means the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. And you could go to the website and you can see in each district who is on the board. Okay. A borrower means an entity that incurs an obligation to the bank. So a borrower means an entity. So an individual is an entity. If you're using your social security number, the borrower is the entity, the social security number, juristic person that incurs an obligation to the bank. And so I suspect Wendy was not doing private banking. I suspect, I don't know what kind of insurance policy she had, what kind of bond, what kind of, how she was banking. Okay. But there are a bunch of different ways to handle the situation other than the criminal way that they're handling hers. Yes, I said it. Borrower means an entity. So she's being treated like a thing because in commerce, she's acting like a thing out of honor. And I don't blame her, but I'm just saying this is a justification that they're giving to the ritual that they're performing on her in front of all of us. It hurts my feelings. A borrower in custody or a BIC arrangement. So now I just read what a borrower is. A borrower means an entity, not a person, an entity. And even a person is identified as, it could be a corporation, even a person can be. Okay. In this case, it would be a natural person. She would be she would be represented by a natural person. She's actually not the natural person. That's part of coming out of infancy, is realizing we are not entities. We are people. Okay, so borrower means an entity that incurs an obligation to the bank. Now here we go. A borrower in custody or a BIC arrangement means an arrangement whereby the bank authorizes a borrower / entity or an affiliate of the borrower to retain possession of the collateral as described in Section 7 of the operating circular. Now, I'm not going to go to Section 7 right this moment, but just hear this right now. Is this not Wendy Williams' situation? A borrower in custody? Is she not being held in the custody of the New York bar attorney? Is she not in custody? A borrower in custody, an entity in custody. Are they not treating her like an entity? Because it's clearly not for her good health, because she was healthier when her son was taking care of her in Miami on the beach where she can ground and get sunshine and herbs and relax. And of course, if you are coming out of addiction, the first time somebody asks you, how are you doing? You're going to say, I need my whatever I'm addicted to back. That's just how it works. And there's something called the stages of change. So it's a circle. You don't just go from one day I'm addicted to one day I'm free. There is a cycle, and part of it you have to account for relapse. So just because she said, I want my Big Mac or whatever she wanted that he wasn't giving her, just because she said that doesn't mean that that's what she needed or that's what was best for her. It's part of addiction. And if you have a guardian who doesn't know about addiction, then you're not competent to be a guardian because you are in an infancy stage your own self. Borrower in custody means an arrangement whereby the bank authorizes a borrower, because see, that entity is an account of the bank. It's not really Wendy's account, right? Okay. Whereby the bank authorizes a borrower or an affiliate of the borrower. Affiliate, would you say that the attorney or the court is an affiliate of the bar of the entity? Yes, because her person was created through the birth certificate at New Jersey, and then there are power of attorneys in place that we don't know about. They're there, obviously. You can have somebody come back to cold New York to be held away from their loved ones, have her son, who she loves dearly, be put out of his apartment because he didn't have access to her funds as he was used to, as she worked hard for, as she willed it to be. But obviously, her will doesn't matter because she's in custody. To retain possession. Okay, so arrangement whereby the bank authorizes for a borrower or affiliate of the borrower to retain possession of the collateral as described in Section 7 of this operating circular. I'll go there in a few. Maybe I'll go there now. I just want to see. 7. Well, Section 7, how long is that though? That's going to take us on a little tangent. I'll get there another time. Borrowing, okay. Business day means any day that the bank is open for conducting all or substantially all of its banking functions. A certificate means the certificate substantially in the form set forth in the appropriate application package provided to the bank by the borrower. Collateral means collateral. Listen to what collateral means. Now, mind you, I read borrower in custody, and it's talking about to retain possession of the collateral. Now we come down here. Collateral means the borrower, the borrower's, okay, let me say it properly. Collateral means all the borrower's rights, the entity's rights, right? Title and interest in property. The account is property. Wherever located, now owned or hereafter acquired, including but not limited to accounts, chattel paper, which is a bondage agreement, inventory, equipment, instruments, investment property, general tangibles, documents, even so her contracts with other people, other entities, deposit accounts, commercial tort claims, and real property that is identified on a collateral schedule. So all the things under the Social Security number, all the agreements under the Social Security number, all the securities under the Social Security number is going to be on a collateral schedule, identified on the books or records of a Federal Reserve Bank as pledged to or subject then underneath, to a security interest in favor of the bank or any other Federal Reserve. There are 12 districts, right? Or in possession or control of or maintained with the bank or any other reserve bank, including but not limited to investment property, but excluding any investment property in an unrestricted securities account maintained at any Federal Reserve that the borrower may not encumber under applicable law. See, certain laws apply to certain situations. Applicable law because your status in law counts. So it's even telling you here that the borrower may not even encumber all of their own assets because they're not really theirs if it's unclaimed. All documents, this is still fitting the definition of collateral. All documents, all books and recordings, including programs, tapes, and related electronic data, processing software, evidencing or relating to any or all of the foregoing, and to the extent not otherwise included, all proceeds and products of any and all of the foregoing, and all supporting obligations given by any person with respect to any of the foregoing, including but not limited to interest, dividends, insurance, rents, and refunds. And this is how and why the attorney is more concerned about that video than than Wendy's health. She's concerned about suing now because of what happened with the video being that the documentary. Because she's an attorney. I don't see any part in here of where the Federal Reserve is concerned about petitions. When we're concerned about the health of the consumer, then no, they're concerned about the interest in her estate. To the extent not otherwise included. Okay. Boom, I read that. Now, collateral schedule. This is, instead of just taking my word for it, here it is right here. Collateral schedule means the written, electronic, or other statement listing collateral in effect at any time. Each statement of collateral shall be in the form required by the bank and shall identify the items of collateral with the specifically required. Let me read this again. Each statement of collateral shall be in the form required by the bank and shall identify the items of collateral with the specifically required by the bank. I think that's the error. The removal of an item from a statement will not be effective and will not affect the bank's security interest in the items unless such removal is made in accordance with the operating circular and the bank's procedures, including prior bank approval authorization. So if there is something on the collateral schedule and someone is saying we're going to take it off of the collateral schedule because they're holding your estate and you in custody. All right. And so now the bank has to give approval if something comes off of the collateral schedule because of the bonds and things like that. We haven't even talked about that. We haven't even talked about how within the first 3 years, how 10 times as much of the mortgage has been earned through the bonds. Now, I don't know if it's still like that anymore because I don't know how much people are buying those bonds or not. I don't know what's happening. So I'm not going to, but I know that an audit would give that information. Anyway, event of default. See, this is why they don't care about you. It's about the estate. So if you stay sleep and sick and broke down, the more for them. Event of default means any of the following. The borrower fails to repay or satisfy an obligation when due. That's an event of default, okay? By any means. So let me just keep going because it's not just that only. So the borrower fails to perform or observe any of the obligations or agreements under the lending agreement or under any other instrument or agreement delivered or executed in connection with the lending agreement or under any agreement with the bank or another reserve bank. Okay. So you might have an account in two different districts. It's still going to be like an event of default based on something that happens at another Federal Reserve Bank. Okay. All right. And if it's tied together specifically, if you're not using trusts, and that's why people use offshore accounts and use trusts and things like that, because without your energy, it's just a different look for the banks. It's just a different look for the bankers when you claim your estate and assets. A different look. It doesn't mean that they don't make money. It doesn't mean that they have to go hide in an underground city. But if they keep acting like things aren't as they are, I guess that's what they'll just do. They don't have to. Okay. Any representation or warranty made or deemed to be made, this is an event of a default, right? Or deemed to be made by the borrower under or in connection with the lending agreement, or that is contained in any certificate, document, or financial or other statement delivered by it or in connection with the lending agreement, is inaccurate in any material respect on or as of the date made or deemed made. Okay, so when they found out that oh, you know, Mosby, what's her name? In Baltimore, this case, they said she falsified documents. Oh, whatever she did, they do that thing all the time. See, they're performing these rituals faster than people can keep up, especially as people like me start to learn the truth. And I got my own thing. I'm trying to keep my head above water. So it's then being said, oh, they're incompetent to handle their own estates and to help each other. Okay. Can I get a safe place to sleep at night? You can't vet and judge people that are being tortured. Okay. This doesn't work. That's not truthful. The insolvency of a borrower. So the lending agreement or any other, that is the event of a default. Yes, event of a default means any of the following. The insolvency of the borrower. Okay. The event of a default means any of the following. The lending agreement or Any other agreement delivered or executed in connection with the lending agreement ceases for any reason to be in full force and effect, or any person so asserts, or any security interest or lien created hereby ceases to be enforceable or have the same effect and priority purported to be created hereby. So, do you think it's an event of default when someone nationalizes? When someone says, I want my person to come under this flag instead of that flag, I take treaty right over here on this under this flag, the treaty right that, I don't have to pay usury or interest or things like that. And this is another thing back to that matter with the flag, because if you look at the Treaty of Marrakesh, also referred to as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, if quote unquote subject of the empire, mind you, there's no sultan anymore. There is no sultan anymore. Now, they do, there is the state of Morocco, and there is also the empire, right? And Taj Tariq Bey has taught so many years, right? He's been teaching for years on these matters. Now, me, I ordered the thumb drive. Did I get it? No. And that's not a reflection on him or on Dr. G. I'm just saying it never came in the mail. And because of the Department of Homeland Security operations with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, yes, they do move people's mail around. And no, it is not okay. So can't keep saying the heiresses are incompetent when the heiresses can't even get basic materials to read something. Or you order a program and then halfway through, technical difficulties, the program is not available right now. When that happens after the third time, you're like, who's sponsoring this thing? And so here it is, our assets. Okay, see, the estates depend on us and our land, our ancestral land, right? Then the estates are created, then the estates and trust, and then the states, and then the state licensed organizations chartered on our estates. Then you take funds through our energy, and we're contracting as babies who don't know what's going on. And then it's going to get better. It has to get better. Then when you wake up and try to come up out of it, they do something to make sure you get knocked over the head again. And I'm not saying that there's no way out. I know that there's a way out. I know that even the fact that I'm here sharing this is a thing. It's something to note. Okay. All right. Whenever the bank deems itself insecure with respect to the financial condition of the borrower or the borrower's ability to perform its obligation. See, so right there, you have what's called an event of default. When you have an event of default, whenever the bank deems itself insecure with respect to the financial condition of the borrower or the borrower's ability to perform its obligations. So, if Wendy's going to the bank by way of her Social Security person and they feel insecure about too much money being spent or not this, that, whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be anything wrong. It could just be the fact that she got and we don't, and we need to make it seem like, well, actually, you know what? Here's the thing about it is the world's economy is built on what is happening here. So it's respectable to want to save the world's economy. That is respectable. And it's respectable too when you're doing things that threaten arrest. We get that. However, it's just, to me, I don't understand this piece about not keeping the rules as far as letting people be reunified, have their rights to nationalize or whatever have you, as a way to coming into the private. Some of them might present themselves as, like have nationalized. That is on their way out, because ultimately, is it that let me just ask you this. What is Pope Francis? He has 3 names. Like, as Franciscus, the trustee of the Global World Trust, like, what's his last name? Oh, he doesn't have a last name. Oh, is that telling you something? Is that telling? It should be telling you something. Washington. I don't want people to be shit on. I won't shit on you. But that is something to note, that he does not have a last name as it relates to ownership and control. Federal Reserve lending documents has the meaning set forth in Section 8, of this operating circular. On and on and on. Section 8. Just noticing. Right. Always have us lending and borrowing. Now, indebtedness means the total of the borrower's drafts, whether intraday or overnight, in its accounts and any penalties and charges thereon. And I think I will stop right there. Well, I'll go to the bottom of page 3. Insolvency means the condition of insolvency. Okay. The proceeding relating to bankruptcy, insolvency, reorganization, or relief of debtors with a little d, seeking to adjust an entity bankrupt or insolvent, or seeking reorganization, adjustment, dissolution, liquidation, or other relief respect to the borrower or the borrower's debt is commenced. Oh. So I'm reading, but I'm helping myself too. Dissolution or liquidation. So it's not good, though, that for bankers that don't want to just say what their real needs are and recognize what's going on. It's not good to feel as if you can carry the weight of the world on your shoulders all by yourself. Part of what's happening. So, like, if you have accounts where they go insolvent, yes, there are insurance policies underneath that too. So just know that. But it makes for an unstable situation. It might look good from the outside looking in, but these kind of things are happening more than people want to talk about. But when we talk about the guardianship, it's important to talk about these type of things because they go hand in hand. Of course, you see what I'm saying? What the world is going on? This is what's going on. Okay. Part 4. What a receiver, custodian, conservator, or the like is appointed for the borrower or for any of its United States or foreign branches or agencies. Insolvency means that a receiver, custody, conservator, or the like is appointed Let me read it again. I think that's another thing Wendy's going through. Insolvency means that a receiver, a custodian, a conservative, or the like is appointed for the borrower or for any of its United States or foreign branches. Okay, insolvency means. So I want to learn more about insolvency and what the benefit is for such a thing. Hmm. So it might be a benefit for them if the account goes into insolvency, if they're feeling insecure or something like that. I don't know about all the insurance policies and things behind the scene, and that's part of why uh, um, I keep using the word fraud, because these things that are done, without our knowledge, we're making commitments we don't even recognize these contracts that we're committing to. All right. And mind you, many of the people were assigned a social security number as children. So, anyway, okay. Insolvency means that the borrower has been closed by order of its supervisory authorities, or a public officer has been appointed to take over such an entity. So, definitely, the attorney is a public officer, has been appointed to take over the Wendy Williams entity because she's surety for that account. Okay. The borrower ceases or refuses to make payments in the ordinary course of business, or admits in a record its inability to pay its debt as they become due. Yeah, for the record, I ceased to allow funds to keep being escheated from an account because the account was being paid on time, and then the account holder was injured, commercially injured, when the account was escheated for $14,000 over a period of time amidst like protests. But because I was operating as a baby in the law, I knew nothing else other than eventually to say, I'll sue you if you blah, blah, blah. And they heard that, but then I'm still learning, but it'll be reconciled. But have it be told, I'm just don't make sure bills are paid. All right. Not knowing that we have to discharge an offset or give donus because it's a gift, because there can't really be a full payment because there is no substance like gold or silver backing the funds. It's all created by our signatures and by our contracts. And that's why I don't like the word fiat, because it's real. My energy is real. My energy is real. What it is in a sheet, and it's interest being created by my not knowing how to properly do business, by me being misled, by me being undereducated, by it being concealed from me. Now you have a floating rate IOU that you will collect on when either I discharge or offset, or it's a number of situations that could settle the accounts, and it's going to be okay. All right, I'm committed. But if we just go to truth, it will correct all the fictions. And we can't just walk away from the fictions. See, the Bible is actually telling us a lot about banking, and it's talking about repenting too. So these contracts that we get in, we can't just say it's a fiction, I'm not going to do it. Okay. We have to let the dead bury the dead, and we have to learn how to discharge and offset, because they're not just saying, oh, well, there are people, like I said, this is their religion, and they will sacrifice you. So, but they're not going to be successful, because we're gonna follow the law. We're gonna get it together. Any other like I said, waking up changes things too, and we're waking up. So don't act like that there's no responsibility on the other side to not genocide the people as they wake up. Any other circumstances, and maybe that's your religion, so I can't say because I don't have the same religion. So any other circumstances that events the borrower's inability to pay his debts when due. Okay, a lending agreement means operating circular. The collateral schedule, each document in the application package executed or furnished to the bank by the borrower, and any other agreement or document executed by the borrower in connection with its operating circular. In each case, the same may be amended, supplemented, or otherwise modified from time to time. So I actually just read a little bit more than what I wanted. I wanted to stop at the end of the page, but then I lost focus. So this is definitely, I think, a good time. My feather's definitely up tonight. Uh-oh, I got it. Boop. I'm used to looking at something in a mirror. I don't have it on mirror. My feather is up. I wanted to contribute to our understanding about the situation with Wendy, and I'm learning how to apply this to my own life so I can free my own self, redeem my own self, and hopefully help redeem her. Okay, the more people who study, who have the courage to do what's right, to, um, also who the Tin Man, tax insurance, no, tax identification, insurance too. Tax identification number, because that's another thing we didn't talk about, is that Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. There are things that happen too when you go into the accounts go into a state of insolvency. You know, so come on, we can do this. We can right the ship. We need people on both sides to do it, and these games that we're playing along the way, and not actually being able to use your adult words. We see you're making efforts to nationalize. Here's the process. You rather put somebody through a ritual. And I realize that they're very powerful people who are doing this. I don't want to act like I'm making fun of you or think you're stupid or any of that. I don't. But I'm challenging this thought that that the game will go on to the end like that. I'm challenging that. We're all moving into adulthood. Babylon has fallen already. Fallen. Anytime you mistreat a woman, a man, anybody, handcuffing people because they take checks that are a little bit more valuable than what they want to cash. Are you really concerned about this person being a criminal, Or are you trying to send a message? Don't be coming here cashing these checks like that. We don't have money just sitting in the back like that. See, when you think about what's going on, it really explains a lot of the I call street theater that's happening right now. So, discharge and offset, I could name some people. I'll say, I think it's Robots and Patriots website on the 13-part secured party creditor process. And I would not recommend just going trying any and everything that's on that website because I realized that uh, you have to know what you're doing before you take a step out there, or it can get very, very, very uncomfortable. Even though they might have started it, um, when you step to come out, just step mindfully in order and knowing um, the end game. But that's a good one. The robots and patriots and party, the secured creditor process or the secured party process, where you put a lien on your own entity. And there's several things you'll learn about security agreements, hold harmless indemnity agreements, and that sort of thing. Or like me, also wanting to come out of the public and yes, have businesses in the public, but not be treated as a fictitious entity because it hurts. It doesn't feel good. And it's a lie. And you're bringing bad energy on yourself if you participate in that sort of thing any other way. So there is a civil war going on right now. Yes, there is. And I want to make it through, survive, and do wonderfully. And I want that for everyone else. I want our sisters to not be targeted on our own land. I want our brothers to not be socially subjected to any other entity or thing, whereas then he can't stand up fully for us. And I know several are. Not all are. Some are moving forward with courage to help us, but some are being subjugated. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to do it different, but I would ask you to ask yourself if there is one, and if so, to write your path, because only you can change you and only I can change me. And I will send up more wishes and support for those who are seeking as I am. All right. I'm yawning, so I know it's time to go. Mm-mm-mm. Good night.